What would you give to have hours back in your day and thousands of dollars back in your budget? It may sound too good to be true, but it isn't. Sourcewell is a trusted partner in public purchasing, and our job is simple. We do the heavy lifting for you to make purchasing easier and more affordable. We can help source your purchases well without having to go through the painful bidding process yourself. And as a cooperative based right here in Minnesota, we're driven by service and the ability to strategically reinvest in Minnesota communities like yours. Learn more about our cooperative purchasing solutions at sourcewell-mn.gov.
From the League of Minnesota Cities, this is City Speak. I'm Luke Fisher, Executive Director and host of this season of the show. This season, we are having honest and open conversations with city leaders discussing the journey to leadership and the moments that help define big career leaps, either to new roles, new projects, or big moments. Today, I'm joined by Elizabeth Torkelson. She's the city administrator in the city of Olivia, out west on Highway 212. Right, Elizabeth?
Absolutely, part of the historic Yellowstone Trail.
Now, if I remember right, there is a big cob of corn. That's one of the landmarks in Olivia.
Yes, and I have been actually corrected. It is an ear of corn because it has the green leaves still associated with it. So I have learned the distinction from cob of corn to ear of corn. Yes.
So it's the green leaves that make it an ear and not a cob.
Correct. That's what I've learned out here in the corn capital.
Oh my goodness. I absolutely love that and had no clue before. So if nothing else, that will be one of the takeaways at the end of our conversation today. So you've been the city administrator in Olivia for just 3 months before you spent 12 years with the Library of Congress. So you've made a transition in your career from the federal government and the Library of Congress, the City Hall in Olivia. How many people work for the Library of Congress?
So the work for the Library of Congress is around 3,000.
Okay. And how many people live in Olivia?
A little under 2,500.
Okay. So a significant change in
change.
Worldview and work environment, probably, huh?
Yes.
So tell us, how do you go from working in the Library of Congress to the city of Olivia?
I'm originally from Minnesota, and I've always loved the state of Minnesota. Yeah. And when I moved out after college to Washington, D.C. to start at the Library of Congress, I thought I was only going to be there for 5 years before coming back, and ended up loving it. So stuck around for 12 years. But was really at a chapter of my life with, a husband, 2 young kids, all of our family still back in Minnesota. So we were really looking for a change for this chapter of our lives. So I was looking for different opportunities back in Minnesota, and I really wanted to go somewhere where I could make a difference, where I could work with a great, passionate community to kind of advocate for the best of my ability for the community. And so I found the city administrator job for the city of Olivia and thought, why not? And so I applied.
So when you were working for the Library of Congress, my guess is you maybe had a kind of specific role or maybe a big broad role. Tell us a little bit about what you did when you were out in DC.
Yeah, so when I was out in DC, I worked in the Congressional Relations Office at the Library of Congress. And so what that meant is requests that Congress had that was non-research related, because there's a research division at the library called the Congressional Research Service. Any other requests would come through our office, a small but mighty team of 7. So we joked that we had, 545 bosses, all members of Congress could call my office and request something. And we worked with everybody, far right, far left, and in between. And it was very fun. I got to know a lot about the institution. And so I could speak a lot about different areas of the library. And then I kind of transferred those skills of being a generalist about the library. And now I get to be a generalist about the city of Olivia. So figuring out kind of the broad range of city services. And there are quite a few. So, and then I know who to refer people to be the experts, which is similar to what I did, but on a much larger scale.
To be really successful at the Library of Congress in your role, what did that mean? What did you have to be really good at?
I think you had to be really good at relationship building. It sounds like it's in the title of the office, congressional relations,
Sure.
but you had to have those good relationships with both the members of Congress, the spouses, the staff, as well as good relationships with library staff. And so that's a
Hmm.
lot of different personalities you had to figure out how to manage, but you needed good working relationships with all those groups so you would know who to call to get the answer when you needed it, how to be able to prioritize different requests. And that's something I'm passionate about, is building
Sure.
relationships with people.
Sure. And it sounds like a lot of those skills that you probably developed and really refined while you were in the Library of Congress fit your role as city administrator in Olivia really well.
They do, absolutely.
So you were being a resource for people when you were working at the Library of Congress. What does being a resource in Olivia mean to the community, to the council, to all the other stakeholders that you get to interact with?
Being a resource here means if people have questions about something
Yeah.
or concerns, making sure that they know who to go to. I'm always the first to admit that I may not know the answer, but I'm happy to get it for them. So
Sure.
instead of having them have to contact so-and-so to so-and-so to so-to-so, they can send me the question, they can have the conversation with me, and I'm happy to gather that information for them to figure out a way forward. For my council, it means if they have questions, making sure that we've done the research to present them with viable options, pros and cons, so that they can make the best decision moving forward. And for residents, that means connecting them with services or connecting them with staff or other community members who might be beneficial to their concern or inquiry.
Sure. So the pacing, I've got to believe, between the Library of Congress and the city that you're working in right now probably feels different. And I'm curious if you could tell, like, what does that mean? Like,
Sure. So the pacing is a little bit different. I mean, it's slightly hard to compare pacings because at the library, after 12 years, you know how to quickly handle things.
Sure.
And as a new city administrator who's not only new to the city, but new to city government, the pace is still fast because you just don't know the easy answers yet. You're still learning how to answer things in the fastest way possible. So you still have to do a lot of research. I will say there's less of the 8 or 9 p.m. phone calls or emails from congressional staff or members who expect an answer still at 10 o'clock that night. So that's been really nice for life and family work balance.
But let me ask you this. Do you get hit up at the grocery store differently than you did when you were working at the Library of Congress?
Not completely yet, but the local paper is running a profile on me in the next couple of weeks, so maybe. I have gotten hit up by our mailman who knows I'm the city administrator to talk to me about. And I did finally have a moment in the grocery store where I actually knew like 5 people, and that was a really nice moment. And that's why I moved to Olivia, is to have those types of interactions, which is nice.
So I think that that's something that makes your transition really interesting. You came from the greater DC area. It's an urban area and an urban environment, and you intentionally chose rural, right? And I know that that was probably something that you had to be really deliberate with and intentional about. I'm wondering if you could tell us why Olivia, Minnesota, from the greater DC area? Why not a job with the Met Council and working in St. Paul or something that is more like urban adjacent?
So Olivia is in between family. So that was a big thing, is I wanted to be close to family. I have very fond memories of my 4 college years spent at Morris. Being that this was my first job coming from federal to city, I wanted a smaller community because I wanted to see all aspects of city government and how it impacts the community. There are a lot of aspects from my urban life that apply to my rural life. You know, Olivia is a walking city. I can walk everywhere. I can walk to the market. I can walk to all of our great local parks. I really liked that. I really liked the idea of, you know, when my kids, when they're a little bit older, putting them on bikes and having them bike down the road and not be worried about additional cars or traffic or anything like that. So I really liked the idea of being part of a small knit community. So yeah, it was an active choice, and what I'm really still feeling really passionate about, because the more people I meet, the more, you know, I'm very excited about being here in Olivia.
So I know you've only been in your role for 3 months, but I'm curious if you've encountered any big aha moments or had any surprises that have either made you feel like, oh my goodness, I have found the right level of government, which, I mean, I think everybody that's listening to this probably thinks the local government level is the best level, right? But I'm curious, like, have you encountered anything like that so far?
So my aha moment, I had my first city council meeting without surprises. So the full agenda went off without a hitch. I had researched every item.
Mhm.
I could answer all the questions. It was a very smooth running meeting. And I walked out of that meeting and I was like, oh, I've done it. And then, of course, the next meeting, there were surprises. But it really was a good boost to my confidence and just really made me feel much more empowered that this was my right choice, because I enjoyed being able to put those things on the agenda, enjoyed being able to be that resource and answer questions and have it go off without a hitch. So I was really excited to kind of hit that milestone in my 3 months.
In your role, you went from 545 bosses down to 5 bosses plus everybody that lives in the city, right?
Yep.
And I'm curious what you've done or how you've thought about approaching the city council, recognizing that you can probably have a more intimate relationship with them than you maybe could with the members of Congress that you were serving in your old role.
So one of the first things I did when I got here was I scheduled individual one-on-ones with all of the council members, including the mayor, to kind of figure out, sit down with them, hear how they got involved in local government, hear, their backstory on if they were born in Olivia, if they weren't born in Olivia, what their experience was, and also to hear areas of improvement, if there were ways that they preferred meetings to run, how they received materials, timelines, things like that, and to talk about what their issues are. Everybody has their own priorities. So it was important to me to figure out what those issues are. I did do some research prior to the job, so I'd actually watched a lot of past council meetings.
Yeah.
So I kind of knew from an outsider perspective what their priorities were, but it was really helpful sitting down and chatting with them and getting to see them and learn about them on a personal basis.
All right, so Elizabeth, I want to thank you so much for joining us on our podcast today. You've been a fantastic guest.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really great learning about the league in my new role and being able to call on you all for resources as, the new kid on the block. And so it was great being invited to do this. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to leave our conversation today with just a few takeaways in mind. Number one, I'm so impressed by your perspective about being a resource. That's something that you carried from the Library of Congress and your work in the city of Olivia. I think it's been interesting to hear the clarity of the goals that you've had in the move and in the transition that you've made in your leadership role. I think it's fantastic that you watched and paid attention to city council meetings before you applied to get to know the community and understand the players. What a neat way to do things. And your desire to be part of the community is something that I think is just infectious and is a reason why people want to join the public service to begin with. But there's also this bonus thing that you left us with, and that's the difference between an ear and a cob of corn, something I didn't know until we talked today. But to just make sure we know which is which, the ear of corn
has the green leaves and everything around it. Yes.
And the cob is a corn with nothing on it.
Correct. What you eat.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for your time today. We wish you success and luck as you're getting established in Olivia, and we can't wait to catch up with you next time.
Thank you so much, and come out and visit Olivia whenever you are driving by Highway 212.
That's it for our show today. I want to thank you for listening to City Speak. If you have an idea for an episode, feedback, or want to get in touch, you can connect with us at podcast@lmc.org. Until next time, be well.